down there, tell us what we're going to do. And we have 3 people here with us from the EPA, the engineering firm. This is Eric, that's the name of the person. And there's 3 of them, Eric, Carr, and Brian. And the different aspects of the project, different ones that can answer the questions. So hopefully read what you got there, and I'll let them take over.
So you mentioned my name is Eric Warren. I'm a civil engineer with Sweden Engineers. I work on the Gwinn office. The intent tonight is to be completely informal. So, like she mentioned, we kind of put together a list of questions people might have. So there's a question and a written answer. They're on the table by the sign-in sheet. So if you don't have one, pass them around or whatever. But mainly what we want to do is make sure that the correct information does get out there. People have their questions answered, and hopefully that the right information about what the township is looking to do here gets out to the public here. Long and the short of it, the first question on this Q&A sheet kind of says, why is this happening now? Or the question would be, why is this happening again? The Township Board, based on history with their water system, that wants to make sure that they have the ability to provide safe and reliable water to the Gwinn area in the long term. And part of that being that the system is 60 to 100 years old in a lot of places. It needs replacing in a lot of places. So what they did is looked at the previous project plan, so to speak, looked at paring it back to the basic main elements that will fix what needs fixing in Gwinn, and then here we are today. Is this something that's going to be an issue, or is this something they want to move forward with? So just right now, I guess thank you, Brian, for putting that up there. But kind of what I said right now, one of the questions, why are, how is this happening? Why is this happening? USDA is U.S. Department of Agriculture, Rural Development. They fund water projects, sewer projects. They've done projects all over the UP, all over the country, and they provide loans, sometimes grants for doing utility projects, because in most rural communities, you're not the size of the city of Milwaukee, where you've got a $2 million engineering budget and you can fix things every year. A lot of times things lapse for a long time, and then they need to be repaired. Unfortunately, most small communities, we all live in small communities, I live in one too, that what happens is it goes for a long time. We need to fix a lot of things at one time, unfortunately, and that's where USDA comes in. Right now, the package that Forsyth Township has been offered by USDA is about 2% interest on bonds for 40-year bonds. That's the financing package they offer. Basically, it's the best deal going. There's other state programs, but the rates can be about the same, but the terms are lower and things like that. And bottom line is, between DEQ and USDA, DEQ also reviewed the engineering on the system that was looked at for what needs to happen with the system, what should happen, what's wrong, based on what's wrong with the system. Is the system falling apart today? Absolutely not. The system's out there, it still works, but year after year, things have to be fixed, and when things have to be fixed, it can get expensive, especially a lot of times when things need to be fixed. It's usually an emergency. It usually costs twice as much to fix things when it's an emergency. So looking at that in total, saying, okay, if the township had the opportunity to fix things that are going downhill, things that have been breaking constantly, that are constant maintenance issues, at one time, at favorable financing, let's call a spade with USDA, I think 2%, I wish I could get a mortgage for 2% for 4 years. It's darn close now, but municipalities being able to do it, it's a pretty good deal. And one of the reasons being is the system leaks. It costs money to pump the water. You pump it into the pipes, course, people use it in their houses, but then a considerable amount of it actually leaks back into the ground. So you got to pump it out so it can leak back into the ground. Of course, it leaks all the time. Occasionally you get a main break, and then, excuse me, you got a big leak, which then needs to be fixed. Those are the things that the township board thought was important to look down the road. Township water operator look down the road. What are we going to need to fix here in the next, decade, 2 decades? And if we can fix it now at today's construction prices, at the low interest rates that USDA has offered, is it something to look forward to and do? So, I'm going to defer to Carr here for a second. Carr's been involved with the township water system for a number of years, and he did a project on M35 here in town. And just to kind of go through something that was repaired and what the benefits of that were at one point in time. Since the
It says for time since 1974 that I've been involved in the township. But interesting experiment, it was unintentional. When we did the M35 project, we replaced all the water main along M35. And that happened here, it's reflected here in the large graph we got there for 2009. And you can see how much water is not being pumped after we did the project on M35. We replaced the old pipe in there, the new pipe, and we reduced lost water about 140,000 gallons per day just in that short stretch of main, which amounts to about 16% of your total water pipe that's in the system. So that's, but also we only, because we don't have meters in houses, we meter how much we pump and how much we pump for the sewage meter. So we know those two numbers, just the gross numbers. We don't know what individuals use. But theoretically, if none of the water was leaking out, almost all the water we pump should end up in the sewer. And in fact, we know sewers always have some infiltration in them, so the common thing would be more sewage than the water you pump. We got the reverse here by a significant number. So this is the next slide I forgot. Oh, okay, another experiment. We just completed a project in Richmond Township. And that's sort of a nice little project. It's all right there, Palmer. It's just one little. But similar pipe. We replaced all the water main. And we put in water meters, which is required by USDA. They don't allow you to take their money unless you put in water meters. So as you can see, we dropped from 28,000 or 20 million gallons down to 15 million gallons. That's a 45% decrease. All that water is leaking. And they got similar conditions that you've got here. We got sandy soils. Water can leak for a long time before it ever comes up to the surface. It can lift for a long time. And you got a big advantage here in Gwinn. You pay very little for your water because you don't do any treatment to it. Pump it up. And your sewage, pump it out the lagoon. There's very low cost there. So it's not real sensitive to this. It still costs money. And I guess one thing we throw out to the environmentalists is that's energy not used, there's money saved by a project like this. Yes, sure.
Is that the usage 15 million day, month, year?
That's per year. 15 million gallons per year. But the significant is not the total, but the result, the change.
Right.
Jump forward, right?
No, that's fine. And jump in with questions anytime. One of us will try to handle it. Yes.
Okay, does this consider too, like during the summer, you know, when we have restrictions on a lot of us water the daylights out of our lawns. As far as calculations, I mean, I could see that using more water than.
But that's correct, and these numbers are annual.
Right.
So that includes lawn sprinkling, it includes let runs, it includes whatever, because, to break down, I've gone through and analyzed on a daily basis, and I've looked at, you've only really got 2 months a year where your water usage should represent really what the people are using, because November and December, there's no lawn sprinkling, and the let runs haven't started. As soon as you get beyond that, you tend to get let runs around, and prior to that, you tend to get lawn sprinkling. And I've used those numbers, but I don't have them displayed here. There's still a lot of water lost. You're pumping it, you're not selling it.
Okay, like in Palmer, you're saying they put the meters in and all that stuff.
Yes.
And I remember talking to Joe Finelli about it, and they were saying, oh, there you are. Water rates, I mean, if you're metered, and theoretically, if you didn't use it to water your grass, your water bill could actually be less, couldn't it?
It could be. What we do, and we covered some of that on the handout here,
it sounds like it's going to go, it doesn't say anything like that. It just says it's going to go up.
Well, here's the reality, okay? It costs money to put in the meters. Those meters got to be paid for somehow. Okay?
Right.
No, but the concept that USDA promotes and believes in is that it should be fair across the board. Everybody that uses a gallon of water should pay the same price for that gallon. Now, the first year, we don't really know. We'll make a guesstimate, and we'll just base it on, just like we have done. I think we're going to have to raise that $37 to about $40 a month for the first year. That would be for every home. Okay. Once we've got a year of that data collected, then we can look at it and you break out groups of usage and try to figure out, basically, if every customer on the system used the minimum, you still got to pay off the bonds and you got to pay to operate the system. So you got to, but there's always going to be people who use more than minimum. So they've written books on how to rate the system. But in USDA, by the way, they don't just give you the money and forget about it. They come in and check your books every year, make sure what you're doing, what you're spending money on, that you're complying with what they want. And they would look at, for example, the rate structure to be sure that it's fair and balanced in that.
Carter?
Yes.
Would it be correct to say that a family of 6 or 8 would have a higher water bill than a 2-person family after the meters are in, because the 2-person family is going to use a lot less than a 7 or 8-person family. So that would be the concept of a 2-person, because right now we're paying the average rate of everybody, and so you do have a possibility to have your water go down. Some will have their water
After the first year.
after the analysis is made, how much it's going to cost per gallon to do. And a 2-person household probably will pay less than they are right now after we do the analysis.
I live in Ishpeming Township. The base is 3,500 gallons a month. Just me and my wife, we rarely use that much water. Right? In the middle of the summer, sometimes the lawn is dry. But I still pay for 7,000, every other month. So I still pay for 3,500 gallons a month, even if I only use 2,000, because I can't go below it. If I go over, I pay it. And
You did the same thing in Ishpeming with the meters, was it Ishpeming, you put all the new meters and stuff in? Did they replace water lines and stuff over there through that?
I'm in Ishpeming Township. We put a lot of new water mains in at that time. Ishpeming has, they got all of their wooden water mains out of sewers now. They've got some old water mains in it they want to get.
In the township, how does that work out as far as your rates?
Well, you got to be careful when you talk about that because time value of money. Okay, we did that back in the early '80s. My water was $16 every 2 months. Okay. But that's not in today's dollars. That's because we borrowed the money in the 1980s. We borrowed it in those kinds of dollars. And that's the thing I was just thinking about as we're talking here today. We're talking basically a 40-year program. USDA wants to make sure two things. One, that the materials we're using and everything we install, either it'll last 40 years or we've got a replacement program in 40 years, like a pumps or something like that that maybe we're up 10, 12 years. So that at the end of 40 years, you have the money in the bank to start over again and replace what's worn out. No, we're not in that situation now, of course. But if you think about what's happened in the last 40 years with the value of a dollar compared to what it, I don't know where it's going, but I don't think it's going to go down. Yes.
But what year did you start this project? I mean, this project's been going on since Mr. DeGiuliani was the supervisor, or prior to that. And at that time, what would you, any idea what the cost of the system to do what you're planning on doing now for
When we were
about $4.5 million?
Well, we were planning on putting water meters every place.
What?
And I think we were at about $350,000 putting it, and that wasn't replacing mains. That was all water meters.
But if the township would have done it back then, you can see the difference in cost. It probably been about $1 million back in that period of time. Now it's already up to $4 million. 5 years from now, it could be $8 or $9 million. So I'm just saying that somewhere along the line, as this system gets down, it's going to fall apart. It's not right now, but it will eventually. We'll pay more down the lane.
You'll pay twice. You'll pay more, as Eric mentioned, because you're doing it in an emergency situation, either with overtime on the people you've got employed, or hire a contractor to get in now because we need you now, and that's a little plus on that just to be here. He knows he can get it. So you pay, plus doing a bunch of little pieces, 2 or 3 major breaks a year or so, and replace the short section is much more expensive than replacing all.
Well, not just that, I mean, interest rates aren't going to,
That's-
they're not going to stay this low forever.
That's
And I mean,
who here has seen interest rates this low? I haven't.
never.
No.
So, I mean, I can see 10 years from now, the loan might be 5 or 6%.
So some people feel like, oh, they didn't give us a grant. When they give you 2% interest rate, they're giving you a straight grant. It just doesn't call it a grant.
One thing I failed to mention, when I was, a lot of people are like, well, you had mentioned, other places have done this. Republic Township, actually, in North Republic is replacing the bulk of the mains in North Republic, and they have to put meters. They're putting in process, they probably got about 75% of them put in right now. They're doing the same type of project. But unfortunately, I mean, I live in Holton, and I grew up in Mohawk, which is north of Holton. And everybody in the UP is kind of in the same situation. You had mining or you had Air Force bases or whatever, and all of this stuff was built in either the early 20th century or in the 50s and 60s. And unfortunately, everything's been good for many years. And now the chickens are kind of coming home to roost with this stuff because even a lot of materials, like cast iron that they put in the ground way back when, that cast iron will last forever. Problem is that socket that you put together with the old lead oakum and stuff like that, that doesn't last forever. I mean, does the rubber we use today, is that going to last forever? No, but it's going to last probably longer than the lead oakum did, because it's just a better joining system. We got a lot more precision on how stuff's put together. So, you know, you're not alone by any stretch in you know, the problems that you've had and the problems that could occur in the future. Not like Lars said, I think Joe said, it's not falling apart today. Things have fallen apart. You do have make breaks, you do have things going on, but the problem is it doesn't get better. It's like your car, you know, it's going to nickel and dime you to death sooner or later. And I think what the township really wanted us to look at the last time is, okay, where's the bootstraps up type of project to say, okay, what do we need to replace within the system that's here now? I think, Brian, are you going to that?
This was the original project.
Yeah. You remember months ago, I think it was August, September, looking at the original project, of course, you got Gwinn proper right here. Now I need a laser pointer. I don't have one. Lars got one. But, you know, you got Gwinn proper right here. You got Swansea. And part of the original project was up 553 right there. And we had looked at another portion out, you know, along 35 out to North River Road, or River Road area.
We also have the loop up there.
And we also got this loop up here too. Look, that was the original project, and those were looking at some extensions, which is not part of the original system. Brian, if you can go ahead. Is paring back the project, we looked at taking out the 553 loop and taking out this piece on, I guess it's partially on 35, partially on North River Road, and looking at the core of, you know, New Swansea, Gwinn proper, looking at the core. Where's the old pipe? What needs to be replaced? Without looking at any kind of extensions or anything else that can come later, maybe through other means, looking at those. So that's where we found that $600,000 to take out of it, and look at this again to see if this is going to be something more favorable. I know the board looked at it that way, and that's why you're having these meetings to get the word out for people.
We did read the small view from the survey that's based on your system's pressure. There's some drastic requirements.
So Bruce can take a shower without
Yeah. And without this, we could not do a project. So
It's
we
one
had
of
to
those
keep that.
DEQ requirements that, you know, unfortunately, they make you do things, make you do certain things when you do a project, and that's one of those things that they said, if you're going to do a project, we need you to do that because it's going to perennial problems.
Now, this loop, actually, when we did our analysis, we found it wasn't as much as of a benefit to the system, and not necessarily, what it would provide is redundancy into this area in case there was a break or something in here. It would be better for fire control, but in the overall quality and pressures for your system, it wasn't required. So the thought here was that a lot of this hasn't yet been developed. The idea and the hope would be that it would be developed in the future, and maybe people that develop that area could participate, you know, in terms of maybe funding this project or assisting in that sort of thing. So we pulled that out, and so we're just trying to better it with the current users of the system right now with this scale back project. And that should have it under.
This piece in here should be replaced when we can, but we're trying to shave corners where we could get the cost down. This is one of the more recent, younger stuff.
Ms. Carter mentioned that piece of pipe that did all the hard work was this chunk down here, laser, whichever, but you know, that's why nothing's shown. That stretch there along 35 right through the main drag there. That one, that's the one where, you know, when that piece of pipe was actually replaced, I mean, there was a market, you know, where you can see from the pumping records, it was actually a market savings in what was actually pumped just by replacing it. It was 16% of the pipe.
Yes.
So,
These extensions that you're referring to, the pipe being laid, it's going to go up to where they would not be yet.
well, there's pipe there already.
Okay.
You know, there's pipe there's pipe down here on 35th Street, so,
This is replacing existing pipes. Basically, what we normally do in this type of situation, put the new, in most instances, the sewer runs down the middle of the street, and the water main runs on one side or the other. We plan on putting a new water main on the opposite side from where the existing one is, try to keep everybody in service, and then when we get the new main installed, at least in one area, block or 3 blocks, and disinfect it, pressure test it, then cut it over and abandon the old.
were you
Well, I was
asking about
wondering,
those
are
extensions?
you, if the lines in, are going to be in there big enough to be able to add that stuff to it later?
Yeah, I mean,
Or are you going to have to go back and redo?
well, and that's one of the things that I know DEQ always looks at when we're doing this is, I mean, if you're installing a pipe and you don't put a valve on the end so you can tie onto it later, I mean, that's just throwing good money after bad, or however you want to look at it. That's money not well spent. So, looking at these areas, excuse me, when the lines are constructed, we're going to leave a T in the line, for someday. I mean, that's just good practice. It's in the ground. You just drop the T in, you put a cap on it, mark where it is. When the time comes, pull the cap off the T, tie on it, and keep going. And there's a lot of cases too where even replacements up in the corner here or something. If something ever did go up there, well, instead of putting an elbow on the corner, put a T. It's a lot easier to take the cap off the T someday than just take the whole elbow off and put a T. So there's little things like that would be done with the project. Looking down the road, if something does happen, you're not installing the infrastructure, the pipe per se, but you're certainly leaving stuff there that makes it easy to do later.
The other part of the answer to your question is we do a complete computer analysis of the pressures in the system under various situations, put fires at different locations, run with, for example, the Austin booster station running and fire over in that area someplace and make sure that we've got adequate pressures every place in the system, or we increase the pipe size to do that.
That's why this needed to stay in the
So it looks like some Norm service station? Is that where the squiggly lines are? Yeah, there, that's Norm, so everything further is still being done. Or you discontinue that.
The squiggly lines have been eliminated. That was going to be replaced.
We use
Is that
existing
M35?
lines. Existing lines. The
Oh,
heavy
you can
lines
use the
here.
existing line.
The heavy lines here are the new lines that are in the project. These
Oh.
here, okay. These lines like here, those are relatively, well, this is a new line we put in on that one here. And on M35, when they rebuild M35, that's when you lose the water main. And up in here,
So that's the line that won't be replaced.
right.
Because all those lines out there are relatively new,
Well,
40 or 50
We
years
we
old.
put a priority on them, I guess.
But they'll have meters put up there.
Yes, even in Princeton, they'll have meters. Okay. The whole system will have meters. Princeton, Austin, all of Gwinn, Swansea.
The Gwinn system, and I think that was one question that somebody had brought up in conversation was, and that's why the questions and answers were put on that sheet. I live in K.I. Sawyer, they have a water system. Well, long and the short of it, this has nothing to do with K.I. Sawyer. This is the Gwinn water system. That's a completely separate water system. Little Lake, it's got nothing to do with you. It's Gwynn's water system. But, being the township is the governing body. It's the township.
Yes.
We had talked, I know the one going up, and 553 was going to make a loop. Now, we had talked about up the end of River Drive, exactly.
It's this one here.
Are we going to still
Yes.
have a loop?
Yeah.
So that gives us better pressure for.
Yeah, we'll have to have that one because we don't have adequate pressure up on the line. And DEQ would give us a permit to do the project.
My understanding, everybody, all these are going to be new pipes, right?
All the heavy
And
lines.
it runs through, is this the New Swansea?
What's the original
That
Swansea?
grid is going to be replaced there?
The original flat Swansea.
So is this is the,
That's the new Swansea up in here. And, we
so
don't
are
have-
the pipes in that area adequate, good, or
Well,
are they going to be replaced, or?
they're not going to be replaced for this project, okay? They are adequate size-wise. They are asbestos cement pipe. Now, what that means is it doesn't rust, it doesn't deteriorate. It's as long as you don't get in and bump it, you're okay.
Don't disturb it.
Yeah, but it is fragile in terms of that. So originally, my recommendation was to replace that, but it just didn't fit into the financing.
Okay, with that, okay, you're not replacing the mains like on Sand Street and stuff.
Correct.
But are you going to go to each house and you're going to put a meter in? Might we, and I notice in here it talks about it, you might have to have the pipe replaced between the house and the main still, even under this project?
Right, we would, yes, in that area as well. What we will do is do a pressure test on the existing service lines. If they fail a test, then they have to be repaired.
So theoretically,
Would that be,
go ahead.
would that be an additional expense then for the homeowner? It has to be repaired?
Yeah, it's potentially an expense. I mean, if the leak turns out that it's on the township side, well, the township's gonna have to just, the township side will shut off sort of thing.
So from the main to your home?
No, from the main to the property line,
Okay.
it's the township's line. Property line to home.
Because there's a shut off under the
Yes.
ground someplace.
The shut-off,
Right.
shut-off is near your property line.
Okay, and so you might have to replace the pipe from your house to that.
Correct.
But that's, I mean, New Swansea, where we live, I mean, the water system's not that old.
And I believe almost all of those, if not all of them, are copper pipe, and there should not be a problem.
Ish, yeah.
Typically, if it's a galvanized.
Galvanized ones are
Better run it.
problem, and those would probably be in, although we've gone through and tried to analyze, and a lot of them over the years have been replaced. Yes.
Okay. If you find a breakdown, is someone going to help us get the loan and the grants and stuff like that? Or is that something you're saying, well, it's here, good luck, find your own?
No.
Are you going to be able to help us?
Rural development's got people, and a lot of times they'll even send someone up. I mean, if and actually, even if it's one person, they got people that go around the UP, it talks about that 504 program right there. They actually have people that'll come here, if there's, it's like, hey, we've got 2 or 3 people that want to look into the program. They'll send, I don't know if Jim Jackson is still the guy, but the guy's name was Jim Jackson a few years ago. And they would send him here with the stuff to sit down at the township office or come to your house and help you fill it out. And even just, beyond that, it's like it says right on there, that program is almost like some of the Mishta programs out there and things like that. They can help you fix your furnace or your roof or anything else. And depending on people's situation, especially for senior citizens in that, they have this low interest loan, and in some cases for senior citizens, it's a forgivable loan. After 1 year or something like that, the loan is forgivable. But again, it all depends on people's, need. It depends on need. Just like if you're going to the bank to finance your house, you've got to fill out the application, provide income
But you would
verification.
direct us in the right place. You wouldn't just say, start making phone calls,
No,
find a bank,
no.
find something.
No, we would, no, and one thing that we would do too is, we're going to hold them, get a pile of 504 information to have at the township office. And I mean, if there was you want to call it an overwhelming need or any sort of wish to have someone come here, rural development will send someone here.
Like they've been here, they were here about a year ago, just to meet with the township and discuss, what the programs are. So, really, they earn their money by loaning money out. So, so the more money they can loan out, the more they ensure that they get a job.
One other thing I'd like to ask you about, the areas where you're going to replace the pipe, naturally, the street have to be, or as a side benefit, those getting new pipes will also receive.
We've the lane of street where the water main is going in, the water main. That is an eligible project cost to replace that lane in the street. The other lane adjacent to it is not eligible, but the township is going to pay for that out of the road fund, so the whole street is paved. That's
Actually, it's only one half. They gotta go.
they'll do both halves,
But
but
one half is gonna be paid for the project, townships will take care of it.
yes, it's through the road fund.
Road development always requires, they always use the word modest. And if you put a water main down one side of the street, you tell them you want to pave the whole street, they tell you that's not modest. And because they generally don't, this program, being the interest rates are so low, they don't pay for road paving projects. So that's where the township is.
That's a pick up the tab.
Yeah.
One of the things that, most of the time, if you replace a road in Forsyth Township, taxpayers pay 100% of that road. Now, with the water project, the water users are actually paying for half of that road, where it doesn't come, the other half comes out of general operating, but that one half of road, because of the water system, the water users are paying for that road. If you didn't do the project and you replace it, it comes from the taxpayers from the whole township, which would be Forsyth, Sandsville, not Sandsville, Swansea. So the water users are actually being, in my favor, being penalized a little bit, because we have to pay for that road for that half. Where normally, it's spread across all the taxpayers.
But they do live on that.
That's true, they live on that road, but when you look at, when you do replace a road, it's paid by the general operating through the whole thing. But it's just part of one of the things that you have to do. You can't put a water system in right up both sides of the road.
What has happened is, technology keeps changing, it's hard to.
That's included in the price of this project.
Yes. But boring and jacking pipe now is prices come down. And actually, if you have you got a stretch here in Gwinn where you've got a new water service to cut in every 50 feet, boring and jacking doesn't make any sense at all. But if you've got 300, 400, 500 feet with no customers on it, we can bore and jack that as cheap as you can open cut it. And there's no pavement replacement when you do that. Okay, we don't have to pay the cost of replacement. So we're trying to use that wherever we can in the system.
If you cross somebody's driveway, for example, they paved it right out to the road. If you come across and you put your new line and cut their driveway out, is the project going to replace their driveway?
Replace in kind.
So you will replace.
It's concrete, we got to put concrete back.
Okay.
It's asphalt, we put asphalt back. It's gravel, we put gravel.
And pavers for pavers.
Okay, when you're putting in a new street, are you putting curbs on that street?
No.
Or making you put sidewalks in?
No,
Or any of that?
it's
Good.
not like an MDOT project where they got the little bumps on the side of the road and everything else. Rural development doesn't have those, again, they look at they look at replacing what was there, and if you had a cracked up sidewalk, you might end up with a new one, but they don't make you throw in handicap ramps and start adding curbing and things like that. The idea is to replace what was there and to get you back to whole or just a little bit better.
You're going to look at the drainage system. Like I live on Pierce Street, and I have a lake in my yard that goes right in.
Well, it's and that's a loaded question, and I could get hung with this one, but in a lot of cases, I mean, if there's a drainage problem and the road is dug
The
up,
whole Pierce Street is drainage problem.
you know,
You know,
that's something you try to fix as much as you can within reason.
See, the streets are all county road commission problem.
Well, he told me it was your problem. Well, I had him come out and look at it. And he said, no, that's township.
Well,
Yeah.
the storm drainage is really the response. Basically runs with the road.
He said,
And
we
the road
take
is
care of
owned,
35.
but the county doesn't have any
We
money.
take care of you.
Okay. The blessing that you have here in Gwinn, trouble doesn't last that long.
Yeah. I have my clue.
But the answer to your question, this project is not addressing stormwater
How about when you put the pipe in, are you gonna put that pipe down where it don't freeze?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I know there's two areas where I was wondering about. One is Sand Street in this line. Now, a lot of those lines that go into the trailers on both sides are only under the pavement there, maybe a foot in some places. And they freeze a lot over there.
Those will have to be.
Those all would come, no matter what they are, copper or whatever they are, right? They'd have to be put down first. The other question I had was about, say the whole project's approved in all, the next 3-4 years it's all completed. What about where the sewer goes out there towards the river? Yeah, the lagoons. 'Cause I know
Oh,
that.
yeah, this project doesn't address the lagoons in any way except that we will be putting less water in them because
One of them has been there a long time, and I was thinking that would be one of the areas that DEQ would get into, I would think.
Well, we're working with them, this is going to do this project, we're working with DEQ to, they haven't cited the township yet. I don't think they will in a foreseeable time, but we're taking samples of the groundwater out there and trying to get permitted for a groundwater discharge, actually, that we're doing it. But talking with Joel, he wants to set up a fund so that we can accumulate money in it to have the money to dredge out the first lagoon where it does need to be dredged out. They've got a 20-year life, it's only been in there for 40 years.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of other things.
Well, there's a well, one of the wells is up that way too.
But no, that's up gradient, that's not, there's no conflict between the, either the Gator Shaft wells or the well number 3. Well, up gradient. Lagoons, flow right toward the river.
So are all the streets in Gwinn going to be repaved, or just that dark line?
The dark lines.
Just the dark
Just,
Yeah, so like in here,
yeah.
there are, like, some of these streets aren't that old, we did them just a short while ago. Other ones, there's no water main down them, so we don't have an excuse for them.
But then their water, the pipes leading to those houses, that's okay?
Well, they're fed off one of the other lines, basically.
You're
Like
telling
here
us that the pipes are bad, and that those are okay?
well, here, for example, there's no customers,
Okay.
so there's no water main here. The houses all take the water off either this line
Okay.
or this line.
But that middle line isn't dark.
That was done.
Oh, okay,
That's
that's
done
done.
1035, that's new pipe, that's only
Okay.
4 years old.
The shut-off keys out in front of your house, is that on your property or mine? So is that gonna be my cost or your cost?
Well, the shut-off key is a project cost.
It's in the project.
That's where the township line ends at that shut-off.
Okay.
From there to your house, whether it's 20 feet or 200 feet.
Okay.
And now, one thing we didn't mention here, and it's a requirement of USDA, the duplex will have 2 services. Can't have, they want to be set up so if somebody doesn't pay your bill, you can shut them off and not cut somebody else's bill. Yes.
I'd like to address the water meters. How are they going to be read?
There's a radio transmitter on the meter that can be read from outside the house.
You don't have to have a landline to read that meter?
No.
Is that, like
No.
Marquette is putting in new meters in because they have places where you have to have a landline in order to read that meter? So they're replacing the meters?
I don't know about Marquette's
Well,
situation.
that's a different system.
Okay.
There's several types of systems. You've got your old read system where, Eric's got to go down to the basement to look at a water meter. That's the Yugo of water reading systems. Okay. The next one is the remote on the side of the house with the numbers that tick off. That somebody's going to physically read those numbers and write them down. After that comes the same thing, but it's got a touch reader where they've got a little wand that looks like a cordless drill. They just walk up, touch it, it puts it into the computer, you bring it back to the office, you put it in the base station, and it dumps the water into the reader. The next step up is a drive-by, which is they just drive a car down the street, they just get close enough, instead of touching it, it just sends the signals connected. The next one up, we're getting into Cadillacs now, or maybe Mercedes-Benz, is these, completely passive, through the phone lines, that's kind of a Cadillac system that they're putting in. We're looking at putting in a good quality Chevy system. I'm a Chevy guy, so good quality, a decent system that doesn't require a ton of labor, but it's certainly not extravagant by any stretch.
No, this is the same system we have in Palmer and also Tilton Township. Both have this same system.
Which system?
What?
Which system is it?
It's basically it's a wake-up system. When the reading unit comes past, it sends a signal to the meter answers it, comes back with what's current reading.
Kind of a drive.
Yeah. It's basically a drive.
Now, is that battery operated? Is that use electricity from the house to run the thing? Or
No, it is a battery, and the battery, 15-year lifetime.
Okay.
It's a,
Because I know, like in the high school, when they added all the new plumbing, they put in all electronic stuff. There's no juice going to it. They have a battery, and it actually has a generator. Every time the water comes on, it recharges the battery.
some of the older ones are like that. This doesn't do that.
Doesn't do that.
It's a lithium-ion battery.
So once every 15 years, you might have to replace the
And
battery.
a meter, normally you would want to maintain the meter about 15-year cycle, just to check, make sure it's calibrated, make sure it's working. Although these meters, we're proposing to have no moving parts.
Right, it's all totally sensitive.
Basically, it's a magnetic field.
One other thing real quick, you can probably answer this. Like Sand Street, I've lived here since '87. They patch it up once in a while, but I mean, the street has never been repaved. Ever. I mean, would we have to, the citizens on the street have to pave the street? I mean, does the county, does the township, when a road gets so screwed up, like Billings and, well, no, Billings been done, Pierce has never been done either, and the one street they did one year, Billings, they did, but Pierce Street, I mean, is like an obstacle course, I mean, it's so patched up that, I was just wondering if there's ever a schedule where they go through and say, hey, this year we're going to repave this street, or does the township pay for that, or does the county takes care of the roads, but they don't repave?
They'll pay a portion. It used to be at one time it was 50/50, then it went to a 40/60. And now they say that we pay 100% of the blacktop, and they'll take their 40% and use it for the engineering. There's not a whole lot of money reimbursed, but the township has to pay for all the roads in Forsyth Township. And like you said, when you put $150,000, it's a pretty good chunk in our budget. That doesn't cover but a mile, or a mile and a half. What I'm looking for, like in Swansea, since you talked about it, is that I talked to the County Road Commission, and I'm asking them, like, you see where they come in and they'll grind, they'll just do a grind and then put it right back down or put another layer on top. Rather than rebuilding the whole road, is it going to be less expensive for the township to go ahead and just put a grind and then put it down again with a new surface on top? Because if you in Swansea and various, I mean, if you got a Jeep like I do, every 50 feet you get whiplash. So I'm just saying, I know my brother-in-law lives there, and I drive that road, thank God, I said, I'd rather walk it than drive because
Right now, it's as smooth as it's ever going to be because of snow.
Ice fills all the holes.
So I'm just saying.
But Pierce is really getting bad.
I agree.
I pity all the guys who
Right.
people have to ride.
And I was hoping that the water project was going to be the whole town, the Swansea, as well as Gwinn. like I say, now I got all good roads in Gwinn, Swansea, and Princeton, and because of finances, we can't do it, but I was really hoping that was gonna go on, because that'll take a lot of our headaches away from us, because the roads are bad in Swansea, especially with the trailer areas. Yeah, they're really bad.
It's like grinding and relaying works pretty well here, because you got real sandy soils. So
Right. You know, it's in the road commission, supposed to maintain the roads, and you know, somebody said that the water, you have puddle there so deep, well, as soon as you get across underneath that pavement, it pushes it right up, so if you don't have good drainage on it, your roads aren't gonna last long.
Right in front of my house, to the west of it, we call it Lake Mini Poo Poo. Because it really gets bad. And then one year it froze over really bad, so that somebody in the county commission said, get down there with a grader and push all that ice away from the intersections and so on. By the time they got done in my home, in front of my house, push it all of Lake Mini Poo Poo into my yard, I had approximately, I figured out the number of yards. I had approximately 30 yards of ice in my driveway. I had literally parked my truck in front of the grader so he would not push more into my driveway. Of course, that upset him a little bit, but he wasn't the guy shoveling that ice out. I can't blow it.
One thing you mentioned was the USDA, when a project like this is done, they come in and check it, say once a year. While the project is being done, they come in and check. Say on a quarterly basis or something.
Yeah.
The money is spent
Yeah,
for this part.
I'm going to run through the process, kind of the process for everybody. You know, at this point, USDA has done what they call obligated funds. They've sent the township a letter and said, we've reviewed the engineering, we've reviewed your application, we've reviewed your proposed budget, your water system budget, whatnot, and they've obligated funds to the township. So they've taken money off of some balance sheet in Washington somewhere and put Forsyth Township's name on it. Okay, so that's now after the township's gone through a long vetting process and an application about rate pick and things like that. Now, as the project would move forward, USDA is involved every step of it. From with plans getting, say the plans were finished for the job, they have to be sent to USDA, their state engineer to review. They have to have their Office of General Counsel review all the easements, all the legals, all the different things that have to be done. They're literally Chicago lawyers that have to do it. Once the project goes to bid, of course, USDA requires the projects competitively bid. So there's an ad which will go out in the mining journal, say, and all the eligible contractors could bid on it. Once the job is bid, of course, you kind of take the low bidder. USDA reviews all the bidding documents, the contracts, everything else, signs off, because it's not just the contractor and the township signing off on those documents. USDA has to sign every one of them too, because they have to review them. When the money starts to move, now you come to what they call a loan closing. Now you've got USDA, the township, the engineers involved, also bond counsel, which is Detroit attorneys in this case, but they're the ones that take care of all the bonding and treasury rules with the Michigan Department of Treasury in order for those bonds to be pulled to do this job. Now, as the project moves forward and pay requests come in, actually the township has to keep a running ledger. They don't just mail you a check for $4.5 million. What you have to do is you have to get a pay request from the contractor. The inspector out in the field has to sign off that every foot of pipe went in the ground and everything else, provide that documentation. That all goes to USDA as a funding, as a draw request. So if you need $150,000, they review everything. Yep, it's all lining up and up. They send $150,000 to the township. They put that. It has to go into a special account, a completely separate account. And then every penny, literally, I've been doing this for 15 years, and I spent hours chasing 50 cents trying to find it on a balance sheet. So believe me, every penny that gets spent on this job has to go on that sheet. And at the end of the job, it has to show a zero balance or where every penny went on the project, and they divide the project costs. There's about anywhere from 10 to 12 categories. There's legal costs, there's 3 different types of engineering. What we do gets actually divided into 3 different costs. Construction, they have what's called contingency, because they're going to fund the project to a certain amount, say $4.5 million. Well, if after you bid and you add everything up and it comes to $4.4 million, there's $100,000 left over. That actually goes into a separate category which can cover, oh darn, we found this pipe was broken too, we need to fix this. Well, that's where a change order comes from. 'Cause, I mean, we're not psychic, we don't know everything.
Who keeps the ledger? The township?
The township, we help the township keep the ledger. Every month after there's a draw, the ledger has to go to USDA. We have to send it to them. They will not send you another penny until you send them last month's ledger. So that's, I mean, there's one thing I can say about USDA is they got a lot of great checks and balances. I mean, Clark's been dealing with them for years. I've been dealing with them for years. Brian's dealt with them some. They're a pain in the butt to deal with. But I have to say, they are probably one of the best run federal programs I've seen, because every I's got to be dotted, T's got to be crossed, and the guy we have to deal with is actually a retired Marine. So he makes sure we're flying high and tight when everything's done. So
Dave insists that there's full-time resident inspection. So the work is being done in accordance with specifications.
Now, you came up with this price of $4.9 million. Okay, if you're going to go up for bids, and I'm sure no one's going to bid $2.5 million to do this project, but let's say it was $1 million less than that. $1 million, are they still going to borrow $4.9 million no matter what?
no, if it was that far off, I mean, if something strange happened in the economy and, you know, the price of pipe went way down, and labor went way down, and it was that much less, they'll do what they call a de-obligation. It's called a de-obligation. They would de-obligate $1 million. So you would only borrow $3.5 million.
And how about
Or
the other
we
way?
would look at where we could spend the $1 million.
Or you would look at doing
With
more
their
work.
approval.
Okay, well, the other thing is, how about if it goes beyond 4.9?
Well, if it goes beyond 4, well,
Then we gotta go back.
I mean, it's not a pleasant problem. It happens on occasion. But you look at something, you prioritize, yes, we should do all this work. You would look for, okay, if I've only got a 5-pound bag and I have 6 pounds, which one of these pounds could I take out? And then look down the road, you know, as far as the construction, that, well, maybe you save money doing this, now you can put that back in.
Well, my wife works in construction, she's an office manager, and she talks about change orders. And a project that started out as $1 million can be 1.2, 1.3 million by the time they're done with change, no. But I take it we're not going to be doing that.
Well,
change orders, you know, adding to the cost of this.
Well, but I guess people hear the word change order and they kind of hear it as a dirty word. Well, change order, I mean, there's change orders which can happen because something happened out in the field that the engineer, the contractor, the township didn't know about. You know what? It's going to cost more money to do. Then there's another kind of change order that, hey, we have some money left where I talked about contingency money.
Right.
You know, we're getting to the end of the job. Everything's been going according to plan. We'd like to do this too. And once you've got a contractor, established unit prices, and a contract, you know, we're going to do a change order and have the contractor do some additional work. Again, now, like in this case, I've been asked a question before, well, can we fix the sewer line on Elm Street with that money on a water project? No, it's got to be in the water system. You know, you shan't repave Sand Street or something like that. It's got to be water project related. So it's, you know, change order isn't necessarily a dirty word. And actually also, in the course of construction, another thing to realize too with change orders is you have to pay for what they did. We can say you need to put 700 feet of pipe down that street. Well, we're paying them by the foot. Well, it actually took 708 feet of pipe, or say 692 feet of pipe. Well, whether it's 692 or 708, it's going to require a change order to properly pay that contractor for what got built. So not all of it's just extras per se. It's just making sure that what's paid for is 100% accurate to what was built. Yes, sir.
These meters, are they gonna have a dual readout so you can check? They can be read manually, yes. I mean, you'll be able to check against the meter. It's gotta have some way to check it.
Yeah, it's got numbers on the head just like any other water meter. And then, and it actually, I think you're supposed to check them about every year just to do a comparative read.
But you can compare it with
With what
your
the townships
bills,
come,
with
with the electronics they're building.
just like you can your electric meter.
Yeah, do that religiously every month.
Yeah, if you're looking at your meter and you use 3,800 and you get billed for 6,000, you might want to have somebody come and check.
Well, the electricity's like that. It's every other month, and then it's
An estimated sometimes.
yeah, it's
Goes from 60 to $150.
an estimated one, and you did. I call them up every month and do all the readings, and they send me an estimated bill. I don't pay it. I pay it for what I read. I mean, I really got in. I don't know what they were doing in my meters.
Hi, in regard to the competitive bids that you mentioned, how long is Forsyth Township going to post those jobs before the bids are actually come in?
Well,
Is that a 30-day?
Normally, word's of course on the street, but usually a formal bid ad would go in what they call a newspaper of local or general circulation in the area, which in this area would be a mining journal. So usually what we'll do is it's usually a month. It's 30 days that you need to post, 4 weeks they call it, that it needs to be posted. So say if on April 2nd, the ad went in the paper, those bids aren't going to be due until May 2nd, type of thing. So it's going to be a full month that it's out there. And given the construction industry, most contractors, they have Dodge Reports, Construction News Daily. Those people are constantly calling us because they hear about this stuff, and they actually, so it ends up in these construction journals advertised too. But according to the rules, we have to publish it locally for a month.
Can you take someone that's not locally then, hire them instead?
Yeah, I mean, but they have, it's got to be a low bidder. I mean, that's the thing. The lowest responsible bid, which I could go into a 2-hour diatribe about lowest responsible bidder, but I'm not going to. But basically, it comes down to low bid unless there's something really wrong with that bid. Like someone mentioned, somebody bid $2.5 million. Sorry, you missed something. It's going to be nothing but heartache and sorrow. We're going to go to the next guy.
But the local companies that first did that, or anyone?
It's open and free competition. So if somebody thought they could come from Colorado and build this job cheaper than someone who lives around here, they're welcome to it. But your local contractors generally have the advantage because their guys go home to their house every night and they're not paying hotels and large mobilization fees, and they know their area.
Princeton system was built by a Wisconsin company.
It does happen, but there's, you want first dibs, I guess you want an upper hand. Local contractors definitely have the upper hand, but based on maximum open and free competition is what they call it. Anybody who can get bonded for it, you have to have the ability to get a performance bond and a bid bond and things like that. Anybody who can get bonded for it could bid on it. That's part of the funding package is the free market, but like I said, local contractors generally have the advantage just because they're not paying for hotel rooms and trucking in equipment over 2 states.
Is this price that you're getting including the meters, or is the homeowner not pay for the meters?
No, that includes
The meters, so the homeowner does not pay for the meters either, or they don't pay for the meter pits.
No,
Because that's some of the questions that I'm going to ask. Who's going to pay for the meters? So the meters belong to the township, even though they're paid for it because we have the right to go in and service our system.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we're paying for the meters through the law.
In the law, through your water
We
rates.
can't get something for, because originally, when one of the other township supervisors, we were gonna charge everybody in town $600 each, and to put a meter in, and they may cost that much, but we're just paying for it in a different way.
We spread over 40 years.
Right, in versus writing a check on
And
it.
the purchasing power of purchase, right?
We went through all this once before, and somebody went down to is this gonna happen again?
It can.
Okay.
As
So there's a time limit between now and when you do this?
we'll publish an advertisement in the Mighty,
Okay.
and that starts the clock running on the petition.
So it's gonna be kind of like, same concept.
Yep.
Yeah, one reason the township wanted to have this meeting is to make sure that, because they do, like, it's kind of coming round robin here, but they did recognize that, they've got a responsibility, they've got an opportunity here. So they looked at bringing this thing back to kind of the bootstraps up, so to speak. And that's why they're having these 3 meetings, is to make sure that the right information gets out there, that hopefully it will be supported, or at least not opposed.
Part of the feedback we got is, well, if I'd known that's what it was, I wouldn't have signed it. Well, you did sign it, and that's good. And then other people have said, since they saw what we reduced the project by, it's okay, now it makes sense.
Yeah, you probably had a lot of people that don't know that, or even involved. They would come in.
It's just unfortunate, that's the way Michigan, the statutory treasury law number, whatever works, but it's the electors of the township, even though this is technically...
This project start this summer, if it's approved now?
Well, it would take a while, it would definitely be bid out this summer, and probably started this summer until winter came back, and then winter hiatus, and finish in 2020.
It normally takes USDA 60 days or so to just review paperwork process after we've taken the bids. Before they,
This could be a couple of summers.
oh, yeah.
Just one issue, question. As far as the expense of the home improvement, it could be $4.9 million. The only additional expense, if I have it right, is in case we need to replace pipe going from the shut-off valve, the repair pipe,
To your
shut-off valve to the meter.
Right.
That would be the only additional expense to the home,
Potential expense, yeah.
potentially. And the meter's covered, and the rest is covered under the 4.9.
Correct.
And we've got to put, when you put in a meter, you put in what they call a meter go for meter horn, and there's some piping modifications that need to be done in the house plumbing to do that. No, that's normally included in the project. No, we got to replumb your whole house, that's
That's a different story. From the meter on, from the meter to the shut-off valve.
right.
Would be the homeowner's expense.
Yeah, well, from the point where they're gonna put that meter horn in, not to, I don't wanna get too hair splitting here, but, you get the line that runs from the shut off into your house, there's a point where they're gonna cut your pipe and put that horn on. From the point they cut that pipe back is the homeowner's responsibility, and from the point where they tie it back in.
Well, if it's good.
If it's good, everything's hunky-dory. Yep.
Otherwise, that would be an additional expense.
Right.
No, what was done in Palmer is the homeowners that needed to replace the line worked with the contractor, got a price from him to do it, some did, some, Palmer, it's a cousin or whatever, they did it. It's on the contractor in general did a pretty good price, so maybe the contractor knows somebody that's worth it.
Just one quick question. If you have to replace that line, say from your shut-off at your property line into your, is that a permitted? You have to have a permit to do that?
It has to be a licensed plumber.
Has to be licensed plumber.
Contractor. But there's not a permit per se.
I don't know that the township has an actual permit process for that.
Joe, do you know know.
Would the county, the township doesn't, but would the county request a permit if I had to replace my water line right now?
No. Outside your house, no. If you're plumbing inside the house, then you get into some.
I think that answers your question, doesn't it?
No,
Since-
I guess what you said.
If I had to replace my line right now, would I have to get a permit? He says no.
Okay.
So it wouldn't make any difference then if it came at the time when the water project was going in or not, because they do require a permit. The county does for mechanical permit or something like this here.
But outside, that means that outside you could do your trench and,
Do it yourself.
yeah.
If you wanted to.
I mean, you wouldn't do the hookup.
No, but you could
But I mean,
certainly do it
do
yourself,
it
in
to
your own trench.
You could hook up your house, wherever.
That's what I'm getting at. You can do it yourself if you want. It just has to be, it just has to have a plumber sign off on it, basically.
You know, the other thing I was going to mention is when they first put this out, I think, you know, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure which way I voted on it, but if I knew they were going to replace the street, I probably would have. If I did vote for it, I definitely would have voted for it. And I don't think that was real clear, because I have a feeling a lot of people on Sand Street, Superior Street, and some of these other streets aren't going to get touched.
We're under the impression.
Right. I don't think they knew that all the streets were going to be replaced, which is what would have happened, right?
Well, it still won't happen now.
Not
The
over
sand,
No, I realize that, but under the old one, you were going to run New Maidstown. Oh, you weren't? Okay, so either it would have been done.
We were gonna run a 553, but not through Sands.
We weren't going to replace any of 553.
I see.
One of the comments I heard is that we didn't like it because the users were going to pay for that stretch one up 35 and up 553. And they felt that whoever develops that should pay for that. So some of those people that voted no expressed that, you know, that was, well, why should we pay for that stretch when the commercial person is going to come up and make money on it? So maybe a little bit better for us now by taking that out of there. Those people will say, okay, they have to pay for it just like we did in the beginning. And other than that, that one loop that you said you have to go and do, that's something that you have no choice. If you do the project, you have
That's
to do
for
it.
existing customers.
Well, the other side of that, what you're discussing is, you know, let's say, I doubt it, but 20 houses were built out there. All those people would be connected to the water system. They would, yes, they'd be using water, but they'd also be contributing to the fund. So you'd be adding people to the loan.
Every customer you add to the system benefits.
Right, benefits the system. So, I mean, I guess there's pros and cons.
If you have a big box store or somebody's going to move in there,
Even that would be
maybe
even better.
we'd be able to go and say, okay, fine, we could do that, but not knowing.
We covered all of our slides, didn't we?
Yeah, I kind of most.
Any
Most of it's on the handout anyway.
Yeah, we can answer
Yeah,
that.
basically everything that was on here is on the hand.
Thank all of you for coming out. I do want to tell you one thing. I live on Pine Street. So I had my water main changed a few years back, and I no longer have to let my water run. And I have nice curbs in front of my house. But it's much better in my house, just having better water pressure now. So, you know, there's sides about this.
One question, this community that's gone 3 or 4 days now without water, ran their system right down to the tube, there's a main break.
I was on the phone with him on the way down.
Okay, so I'm saying it's the same kind of sand condition we have here, right? So a possibility could exist in Gwynn's system that main will not surface. Are we going to put any extra valves in our system where we can start saying that we don't know where the water's going, so we're going to start shutting valves off until we can hold pressure? Is that what this other community is doing?
Yeah.
Trying to figure out to isolate it?
Well, actually, they did. I talked to them, actually, you guys were right in the office when you called me. They did find the leak.
Oh, they
This
did?
afternoon, after 4 days.
I mean, that's all the time, I mean, we're doing the same condition here. I mean, we had that one water leak that's putting 100,000 gallons a day in. never surfaced for, yeah, my homeowner. It didn't surface for I don't know how many weeks.
And they were searching, they had been searching on their own up until today. And then we worked with them and the DEQ, and we were going to get involved tomorrow morning, but they did find one leak. They think they have one more. So I got one of our engineers working with them to figure out okay, no, it could be over here. So A was this, and this, and try. And then we're going to open that and try. So they did find a leak, and I think our contract was on its way to fix it. I call it an giggle leak on here.
That scared me when I saw it.
We will have valves on
But I can hear you.